Alright chat, lock in. We about to cook up some music theory, skibidi style. If you try to go from Ohio level music NPC to level 100 Beethoven, here are music theory fundamentals to help you on that theory maxing grind set. Let's start with the OG skibidi basics. Number 1, notes and pitches. These are the white keys on a piano, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then when you continue, it loops back Sisyphus style. We also have black keys, which are sharp or flat versions of these letters, like DLC characters. These notes will enter the chat on a 5-line staff and have a clef to the left, which will tell you what are those pitches. The two most common clef NPCs are the treble and bass clef. Treble clef is for higher pitched notes. You'll see this for instruments like violin, flute, and trumpet players who don't touch grass. Bass clef is for lower pitched notes. It'll be commonly seen with the chads playing double bass, tuba, and other absolute chonker instruments who also don't touch grass. If you say, that's cap, how could I possibly read these notes on sheet music? Well, just memorize some mnemonics. For example, the treble clef lines can be memorized with every goofy blood deserves phantom's tax. The spaces in between a treble clef can be just imagined with a locked-in face. The lines for a bass clef can be memorized with gida-gidi gida-gida-go bussin' delulu fam 8. And finally, you can remember the spaces in a bass clef with absolute cinema eat grass. A sharp or flat next to the note means that you'll have to play that version instead. If you can see sharps or flats right after a clef, that's called a key signature. And that means you'll have to be a sussy baka by playing every note it indicates as sharp or flats. However, these sharps and flats can be Uno reversed with the natural sign. Next up, let's talk about scales. Scales are just rizzing up notes in a particular order. If we hit the griddy and skip certain notes in a pattern, we can get stuff like a major scale, giving off W vibes, do, re, mi, phantom, taxing, do, or a natural minor scale, where blood's got that main character backstory. If we note smacks with all 12 notes in order, that's a chromatic scale. Different patterns create different scales, but since we're just covering the basics, I won't yap too much about these. Now let's talk about rhythm. It's kind of like the dancing rat in your track. There are time signatures that show you the timing. It's how Hatsune Miku is able to griddy on all the ops in Fortnite. If you see 4-4, that's the basic drip of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also have stuff like 3-4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is like you're emoting a waltz. One beat in this case can be called a quarter note, but we can be a cave diver and go in between the cracks and do eighth notes, basically having 2 of them per quarter note, or even 16th notes, where there are 4 of them per quarter note. You may also come across the term tempo, which is how fast you can put the fries in the bag. In classical music, you might see tempo indications like Allegro, where bro's sprinting for that $19 Fortnite card, or Adagio, giving off Freddy Fazbear stuck in Ohio traffic vibes. If you're finding it hard to keep track of the exact tempo, you can always use a metronome, which acts like your locked-in gym bro keeping you from yapping off beats. If you still yap off beats, well, that's called syncopation. Now let's talk about dynamics. This is the volume drip from super soft to super loud. For example, this P over here means piano. Lil bro quiet AF. This F over here means forte, where bro woke up and chose loudness. MF means mezzo forte, basically mid-volume, mid-riz, mid-overall. If you go up gradually, you call it a crescendo, where the volume cranks up like a boarhead exploding emoji. If the volume starts to decrease, we call it a decrescendo. In other terms, a low taper fade out. Now, another important concept is melody. Melody is the main character energy, the earworm gats that live rent-free in your brain like John Pork. A melody usually has contour. It's the amogus roller coaster that can go up, down, or sus zigzag. It's also made up of intervals. Think the distance between 2 skibidi toilets. Different distances will create different intervals. Steps are where you scroll directly to the next reel. Leaps are where you YOLO skip across notes. In other terms, it's basically where you jump for the chicken or jump for the beef. One particular interval of notes is the tritone, aka the Devil's Eye of Ra interval, which hits different. It really just gives what the Sigma villain arc vibes. You can also do some motif mogging. A motif is a goated catchphrase repeated to glaze the track. For example, Beethoven's, which is absolutely based. Similarly, we also have leitmotifs, a sigma chant for a character. Think whenever Darth Vader joins a lobby, someone puts Imperial March on the aux. But instead of putting skibidi toilets horizontally one after the other, can we do some interval maxing and let them cook at the same time? Yes, actually, that will create chords. For example, when there are 3 notes mogging together, we call this a triad. A major chord is typically bussin', whereas a minor chord gives off still water energy. If we go back to the scale, it uses the 1st, 3rd, and 5th note. So for example, C, E, and G. These chords can undergo inversions, where the order is flipped like hitting the griddy backwards with a monkey flip. We also have diminished chords where the grimace shake hits. It's very unstable, like a Discord mod without nitro. Augmented chords, on the other hand, sound like Peter Griffin rolling through the back rooms. It's very floaty and is used a lot for outer space or dreams. Of course, used in different contexts, all of these chords can have different meanings. This is just the general stereotype. Our second last point we have to cover is texture, or in other words, the squad dynamics. If you hear a melody plus a bunch of simp chords backing it, we call this a homophonic texture. And this is very common in pop music tracks. If you hear multiple simultaneous melodies eating and leaving no crumbs, this is called polyphony or a polyphonic texture. We see this a lot when we get mogged by Bach's aura. But what if it's just a solo yap, no glaze? Well, we call this a monophonic texture, where bro understood the Gregorian monk assignment. But all of these need to be combined in a logical structure, which is why our final point will be on form, the meme template. Form acts like a blueprint for upcoming canon events. Here are some common forms. Binary form is simple. It just has 2 different sections, section A and section B, which is why it's also known as the AB form. Ternary form is another very common one. Picture Blood yapping about Smurfcat. Suddenly, he starts talking about Strawberry Elephant, but after a while, he goes back to talking about Smurfcat. Bro has just done an ABA format. Rondo form is where you keep coming back to the A section, like how you need to keep your daily mewing streak. In pop pill music, you'll have verses with all the yapping, a pre-chorus, which has a setup, like asking who is Joe, a chorus, which gives off a banger drop, and we also have a bridge, acting like a plot twist to contrast the vibe. There's also the option of having an intro and or an outro. In classical music, a common structure is the sonata form, which is split into the exposition, 2 opposing ideas spit bars, the development, filled with yap chaos, and the recapitulation, with W riz between the 2 opposing ideas. Okay, so that's Skibidi 101 on music theory maxing. Blood, if you get ratioed by your next music class after this, that's on you. I have lost so many brain cells doing this. Goodbye.